Hello. For today's video, we're going to be talking about something that's bothered me for a while now. Why have I not experienced God in a way that feels better than when I sin? And I think this is a really, really hard question because sinning just is such like an instant glorification, and it gives you what you want in that moment. And that's not exactly what God always does, and He works in ways that we'll never understand. So I've often thought, like, why doesn't God just show us His glory and make us a witness to His power and stuff like that? And that kind of sucks because I feel like all you ever wanted as a kid was to witness a miracle or pray for God, if you just did this for me, I'll do blah, blah, blah. And I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And I've never had a moment where I was like, yes, that was God. God did that. God did that for me. God was thinking about me. And that makes it really, really hard to, just be like dialed on Him and stuff. Why hasn't God revealed Himself to me in a way that would make me never want to sin again? In a way so powerful and like so touching that like the idea of sinning is just no longer attractive. Those worldly desires that I have would just be gone if I could just witness God in one amazing way. And He doesn't do that, and that's just a really hard thing to understand. But when I look at the Bible, I realize it's just not that simple. God can't simply just do that for us. The Israelites watched God split the Red Sea. They saw miracles with their own eyes, yet they still turned away from Him. The disciples walked with Jesus, literally saw all of His miracles, everything the guy's ever done, and they still doubted and didn't believe and had fear. And that kind of made me realize that the problem's never been a lack of evidence. It's been the lack of the condition of our hearts and what we want from God. Jeremiah 17 verse 9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it?" And that really helped me realize that what I needed most is not just a bigger experience or this like wonderful miracle from God, but I need a heart that treasures what God really is and who He is to me. Psalm chapter 16 verse 11 says, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is a fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." That just is kind of telling us that God's the everlasting fun. He's the everlasting joy. He's the everlasting truth. All these worldly desires that we have, they're so finite. They're so fleeting. They're of the flesh. They're not true happiness. They leave you feeling empty. They can never fulfill you in the way that the Lord does. And that's such a hard realization, especially when you can't fully experience the Lord because we're not in heaven yet. It makes you want to turn to these worldly things and desires of your body and stuff like that. And it's just been such a struggle to overcome that and realize that. It's part of the reason I'm starting the channel. Too often we ask God to reveal Himself in a glorious way and to do that grave miracle. God, if you could just do this one thing for me, the thing I've been praying about, the thing I want the most. But I think what we really need to do is transform our hearts and transform our minds and want to see God as just glorious. Not want a glorious thing from Him, but just to see God as truly glorious in His glory. And I feel like that would be such a big step forward in my faith, but I really struggle with a transactional relationship with God, and that's something that I really want to work on, but honestly I just don't quite know how to fix that. I feel like most of the time when I'm praying, it's for things that I want. I think I need to learn to be a little more selfless in my prayer and maybe include some other people and just try to be a little more holy. So Psalm chapter 27 verse 4 says, "One thing I have asked of the Lord, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord." David's greatest desire wasn't comfort, success, or pleasure. It was God Himself. He put all of his worldly desires aside and was able to truly focus on God. And I think that's probably the goal of the Christian life. I'm not quite there yet, but I wish I could stop focusing on, I guess, the goal being to have one moment that permanently removes temptation. If God could use one thing for me, if He could do that one thing, I would believe Him forever and just stop sinning. I think it's learning day by day that God is better than the things we've been chasing. And that's the journey I'm on. And that's a really hard realization, to put away all the sin, all the worldly temptations, all the desires you have, and to realize that there's so much bigger things. And that God is just so much better than anything you can imagine on planet Earth, I mean, the Bible's never even able to truly describe what heaven really is and how great it is. And I think that's amazing. And that no human's ever seen the face of God. So it's out of our comprehension, like how truly glorious God is. And I think I need to turn to that and let that be a motivation in my own life to, these worldly desires, these things of the flesh, they're just never going to be as fulfilling. They'll never be as great as if I could just go to heaven, as if I could just love God, if I could have that relationship with God. And that's something I really want to prioritize moving forward. So appreciate you guys listening. I'm going to try to keep posting daily. It's a bit of a struggle today. I was a little busy, but thank you for watching. Appreciate it.